Thursday. Week 15, IT Essentials. So, talked about TCP/IP, basically how networks function in terms of wide area networks connecting LANs. Packet tracers, all of them, I said, you know, they can do them. They're optional, but it'd be really good for them to understand the networking. We took the test. That was the password or the key to get in. Then we talked a little bit about troubleshooting networks. So we connected. The students all connected to a device, one place or another, and then they worked on these commands. Should be able to ping, trace route, show CDP neighbors, show IP interface brief, show IP route, show run, and also they worked at telnetting from one device to another. Got into enable, privilege exec, and then later on we used PuTTY, and we telnetted to this device in the classroom. Cisco's password, and then we used this address. We connected to work server 2 with their password, and then they telnet to this, and that also allowed them access to the equipment. So this would work from off campus. We talked about troubleshooting, top down, looking at the application, looking down through the OSI model, and we talked about bottom up. Look at the physical connections and then work your way up. You know, can you ping? You know, is the addressing right? So forth. Now, experienced can divide and conquer. They can pick an area in the middle and either work their way down or work their way up through the OSI model in troubleshooting. That'll become more instinctive later on to take another networking course. So this was our diagram, and these devices are still hooked up. I talked a little bit about the connect to devices. So this is a network, got to have an address here, address here. In order for this PC to be able to send anything through a network, it's got to have some type of addresses. So we talked a little bit about, like, this address covers everything here on the LAN. So all these PCs have to fit into that network. And in this case, 172.16.119. We set the virtual address inside the switch here on virtual LAN 1, so then we could telnet into that device. This address ends up being the default gateway for these PCs on this network. Then, in order for this router to be able to send information to this router, you have to have an address here. And then that's another network. And we used in our scenario here 172.16.19.0. And if you want to go to a network outside of your normal network here, then we put that default route here in the router. So if you notice one down here, so if we take a look, one down here, draw a line, these are 172.17, 172.17. So there's a route inside this router saying if I have a 172.17, send it to that router. It also has a route saying if it has a 192.168, like all of these over here, it says send it that way. The same thing, this router, if it sees a 172.16, send it that way, or 172.17, send it that way. So it's just a matter of, your devices here get the packet in the router. The router has a default or a route to the next router and so forth. So these routers all have default routes out, and then they have what we call static routes pointing at the networks down in. I mentioned if you want to connect from home into one of these routers to just practice, you can do that. You could copy the config and then clear it and then configure it and then copy the config back in. Alright, well I guess that's it.